Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. It is August 18th, the year 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 706.
706. It's the middle of August. I'm sitting here in a hoodie.
Oh, my God.
How do you like that?
I don't.
What do you mean you don't?
I don't like it.
Envy?
I'm envious. We've had, to be honest, I told you before we went live, Hayden had his first day of school on Wednesday, and there was some people who had a little birthday get together for their daughters before schools. They had donuts and stuff, and I walked down there in a hoodie because it was like mid to low 60s. And right now in August, if you live basically anywhere in the country, 60s feels like 30s, and because of how acclimated you are to how hot it is. Just like, come May or June, 70s feels like 100 because you're just not used to it. But it'll be back into the hundreds this weekend. There's already heat advisory for today. It's going to get nasty. It's going to get gross, but that hopefully it's like the last, terrible weekend. But yeah, I don't like hearing that all the time from you, but keep it in track. I've got a dry erase board in my office, and every time you mention that, I just make a little bit of a mark.
Yeah.
And then come next, I don't know, March, April, when I'm in a hoodie and shorts and you're in a parka, toboggan, doing ice fishing, then I'm going to start erasing them just so we can make it even for where we are. But it's that time of year where you're going to, who knows what the weather's going to be like, especially like early part of September, but as a busy, we're entering the busiest part of the North American racing calendar. And we'll talk about a lot of that today. You got Mont Tremblant this weekend. You got Ironman Canada the next weekend. And then it's just an avalanche of basically, I think looking at the new Ironman calendar for North America, at least, they said it was like 9 races. And you got Texas in April. And after that, the rest of them are in like the second half or even last, fourth of the year. When you think about, Arizona, Florida, Chattanooga, Maryland, Wisconsin, Lake Placid, Coeur d'Alene when it's on its rotating basis. It's all, they're kind of like all jam packed, which is, I don't think it's a bad thing. We'll talk about that again here later today. But yeah, if it's the first time tuning in today, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. You have quite a lot of options, the Triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general terms of valuables. We appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also all of those previews. But for the most part, Mike and I as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just kick back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes looking at the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to world championships and everyone in between from all over the globe. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion today. We also frequently utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, solid resource in a sport that is oftentimes way overcomplicated, way too confusing. It is a solid, safe space to answer questions and get solid, constructive feedback. So be a part of that group. Don't be a lurker. Be a participant. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads. But we do have an agenda. That's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, we do. I should be honest with you. I'm not wearing like a T-shirt under here, so it's not quite that cool. I have a hoodie.
Stop walking back on.
No, it's like,
back on the statement, man. We get it. All right.
Yeah, but
I've had a bunch of people like I've never used the middle finger emoji in Training Peaks as much as I have this week, when I've had all these people be like, it was a little cool this morning. Yeah. It felt like fall this morning, and you're like, I'm going to remember this too. I'm going to remember this too. And I'm going to say, yeah, you know what? I can't relate come time of year when we're warming up and you're still needing to be defrosted. But yeah, nice try.
Well, I've gotten to the point, man, where, okay, because you're right. I'm going to be facing a winter here for the first time. And well, I guess I was here last year, but this is a little further north. And I've just come to the point where I'm embracing it and I want to be adaptive, because it is what it is, right? You walk out the door and you are where you are. I mean, there's no, so how you going to prepare for that. I mean, when we lived in Chattanooga, man, that summer was almost like winter to me in reverse, because I couldn't even go outside half the time. It was so damn hot. And I'm sure maybe you got some of that there, but so I guess, unless you live in paradise, San Diego, where it's always 7, I wouldn't necessarily want that, man.
Yeah, but they also occasionally get that 80-degree week, and they're like, wait, there's a heat advisory. Yeah, and they're living in San Diego. They're like rocking out in a long sleeve shirt and shorts year round, and then it gets 85, and they're like, Coach, I don't think I can train outside today. It's 83 heat advisory. We're telling everybody to stay indoors. Start, rationing your water. We're turning off all the sprinklers. I don't know if we could really be able to survive. Please send help. And you're like, you know what? That's what you get, right? For living in the best climate, period. Or you live in a place like Florida, where 9 months out of the year, it's just insanely gross to even breathe outside. So you know what? We've all got it, right? Every state, outside of San Diego, has in those SoCal, counties, you just got it. Every place has got it, and it's just it's all what you do with it.
I should say, man, I was swimming the other day, and it is mid-August, and that lake was a little chilly. It's kind of interesting. I mean, so if you're coming up to Wisconsin for the race, I mean, actually race day it's usually low 70s, right? Maybe high 60s. So it's got a little bite to it, but it's not bad. It's not bad with a wetsuit on, it's perfect, but I wasn't wearing one yesterday. I was like, I could probably, I definitely could have wore one, but and now I'm just sitting here in a breathe right strip, because every time I swim, man, I get clogged up. And not even clogged, but inflamed. I don't have,
that happens, man. And that's what you get for swimming in cool water in August. It's part of what you have to deal with.
Is that what it is?
We'll get off the weather. We'll get off the jabs. But before we get into the topic of the day, I do want to throw out a challenge to our listeners. One of our close friends and longtime friends of both you and I, Elise Galagos, texted me the other day, and she said, "You know what you should do? You should have people post videos of their version of my intro to the podcast and see who does it the best." Either you can post a video of yourself, or maybe we'll do it at camp. We'll have everybody line up and see if you can rattle off the beginning of the podcast. Because I would imagine if you've listened to as many as we've done, like I have, you don't even have to think about it. It just spouts right out of your mouth. But you know what? We're always for stuff like that. Making fun and having fun. So that's what we do. And speaking of having fun, one of the things we want to talk about today, and something we kind of talked about before we went live, was training and long distance racing. And I think that's been a huge topic for a lot of people recently, especially just more of a state of the sport aspect. Is people see. They recently just announced, the Ironman incident on social media, the calendar of events for next year. And you saw some attrition, right? You saw Alaska's obviously gone. It's been gone. You saw Tulsa's gone. What else did you see? Des Moines is out for the year. Coeur d'Alene's out for next year. And people start to panic. Oh my God, Ironman is dead, and the sport is not doing very well. But you're also seeing a record number of 70.3s. And which to me, I think is where you're seeing the sport. Listen, it's triathlon. Triathlon is not a business, but Ironman is. And triathlon obviously covers anything from a sprint all the way up to, the ultra distance events. But Ironman is a business. And so what you see in businesses is you see trends, right? You saw the reason for them having so many Ironman events was because they saw a lot of people wanted to do fulls. And then what they've seen the last few years is some fulls aren't as popular as they used to be. They've seen that for some 70.3s. Everything has a shelf life. And I think what happened with Ironman is they got out of these contracts, and then the pandemic hit. Is if you've been in the retail space or almost a lot of businesses, you can have too many SKUs. Right? What I mean by SKUs is if you're an apparel company, you've got 45 different T-shirts when you really only need to have 10. Your best sellers, because the rest just sit on the shelf and eat up cash flow. And that's what kind of happened with Ironman as a business model. Is they put way too many races out there, and so you've got 13 or 14 full distance races on the North American calendar, And then you've got, let's just call it 30,000 people participating over 15 events, right? So you got 2,000 people at each event. And then you see that a little bit of attrition. You see some cities aren't, really that keen on continuing having, or maybe the logistics were too hard, like Alaska, right? So one and done. Way back in the day, for a lot of you who may not have been on a sport fan, they had an Ironman New York in 2011 or 2012. The athlete that I coached for that had to take a cab to transition and shove their bike in the back of a taxi. They left from the hotel at 3:30 that morning. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. But what happens is obviously, as a business, what you want to do is make the most money, right, and spend the least. And so if you're Ironman, when you see this calendar for next year, what they're obviously hoping is that they can go from having 13 to 14 full distance events with, again, just a random number, 30,000 people, to having 9 with 30,000 people, right, or more. Right, they're creating more demand. They're creating, a better product, and they're making more money. And we want, however you feel about them, right? Ironman, WTC, the PTO, ITU, World Triathlon, whatever you feel about those as businesses, you want them to be successful. You want them to do well. Because it's great for the sport overall. Just like how the PTO is great for triathlon. ITU, I was watching the Paris Testament this morning for the men. That's great for the sport. It all has its piece, right? The whole piece of the triathlon pie. And the better everyone does, the better the sport does, right? From the youth all the way through the adults and the bucket listers to the elites, everybody in between. And what also you do when you kind of constrict that the amount of events you're having is you're hopefully also providing a better product, right? You can have more people in one place putting on an event instead of having, 1,200 people or even 600 people like came to Tulsa. You're going to have 3,000 people, right, there for a race like Wisconsin. And 3,000 people bring, let's call it, an additional two people per athlete, which is, I think, maybe average, maybe it's 2.5. So you're looking at an extra 6,000 to 7,000 people that are there in town spending money, but also out spectating. More spectators on course, better experience, better feedback from the athlete, more people do it. It's a very simple business model, which again doesn't scream, oh my God, the sport is dying. If you look at 70.3s this year, there's a ton of sold out 70.3s, and there's more 70.3s than ever. I think that's for a few reasons. One, I think obviously, as you and I were talking before the podcast, and I talked about this yesterday in our Zoom call, the sport always goes in ebbs and flows. It went from Ironman, and now it's going to 70.3s. I think it's for a lot of reasons. One, I think the training is a lot more doable for a lot of people. It makes more sense. It's a day thing, right? You get up, you race, then you're back out, you're home the next day, especially if it's a Saturday race. I think also, you've got more, and I don't know if this is statistically correct, but I would have to imagine it is. So there's probably more households than ever where both parents are working. That eats into time. That takes away, the husband can't take up, kid duties, and the wife can't take up kid duties, let the other one train. It's hard to juggle. Life to me is busier, or at least has the optics of it's busier than ever. Right? You're being pulled in different directions. People are overcommitting right and left. There's just a lot of things that are going on. So I think that's why you see 70.3s happen. And what you and I were discussing before we went live was you were saying, I think, I don't really even know how many more of these I can do, right? If I'm even into it. And I think a lot of people find that out. But as I was telling you, I think one of the most important things athletes can do is to make it a realistic and objective decision, right? I think this is good timing, right? A lot of the stuff we talk about is races that are imminent, race previews, how to get rid of your final race block like we did a few weeks ago. But a lot of people are, I'm already fielding questions. I know you're too. All right, how do I plan for next year? What am I doing next year? Because triathletes love to plan, right? Well, let me rephrase. We love to have events on the calendar and hotels booked and registration paid for. Do we always like to plan the best? I would probably say a lot of you probably don't, because you sign up for a race that sounds good, or you got FOMO, or that you think you can do, and it turns out that you maybe can't. And so what I want to talk a little bit about today is setting a realistic plan for being as successful as you can out of the gate, not overshooting and then undershooting as the closer you get to racing, having a bad day. Much like the analogy we talked about earlier in the week when we talked about, mental and emotional, fitness and the gains we have there and how we try to be someone we're not, and the phrase I think I used was, instead of trying to be in the worst of the person that you aren't, try to be the best of the person that you are. Yeah. And that's from a mental and emotional standpoint. From a physical and training standpoint, what you see a lot of athletes do, and we joke about this a lot, is, you sign up for an event, you purchase the 12-week training plan with the 13 to 12 hours of week of training. And you do it for about a week, and then the next week you're all red. So what do? You go back to Training Peaks online coaching store, training plans, you purchase another one. You know how many hours are in there? 14. The average is 14 hours. Then you go back and do it again, more reds. You go back in there, make another purchase. You know what's on there? 16 hours. You're like, that's going to keep me going. I can do this. I got to make up time. None of it is realistic. One of the best conversations you can have with yourself, one of the best conversations you can have with your coach or whatever it is before you buy a training plan or reach out to someone or commit to a group is what is realistic, because being the best at what you want to do that year is also understanding the time you have to do it. So knowing that on the front end, right? If it's the last quarter of this year and you're already planning for next year, would I love to be able to do 14 to 15 to 16 hours of workload next year to prepare for this, full distance race in July? Yes. Will I have the time for that? No. Do I think I'll have the mental capacity and the drive and the want to do it? No. Do I think I'm going to really want to do it? No. Okay. So don't commit to that. Commit to finding a way out now and planning ahead of time for what is most realistically going to happen. It's like a phrase I used yesterday in the Zoom call is you and I both get questions all the time is, do you think this is possible? Do you think I can be ready for this? Do you think this is smart? And what I like to say is it possible? Yes. Does it being possible also make it probable? No. And that is I think a question that we could all ask ourselves when we look at a race calendar, not just for the race, right? Is, do I want to be my best self for a 70.3 and know I can train at a pretty good clip for hours, right? 10 to 12 hours. You can have a great 70.3 with that average training. Or do I still want to do a full and I can still only average 10 or 12? And if that's the case, here's what I need to do it. Here's what I need how to lay out things. I have a much smaller margin of error. So understanding those things, asking yourself these questions, because I promise you, not only will you have a better time and a better performance, but your overall experience is going to be significantly better because you're going to enjoy the training and you're going to love the training. You're not going to dread it. You're not going to feel shame and guilt when you miss a session. You're going to have a plan and stick with the plan, and it's going to make not just your training life, but your regular life much more fulfilling.
Well, a lot there. There's a lot there.
Sorry about that. I had a little extra cup of coffee.
I was going to say, man. No, so, when I said that about, I don't know how many more of these I can do. I think what I mean by that too is to a level that I think in my head I would like to do them at. But see, so for most of my life, I've kind of used things like this as a, kind of a compass. So why do I do Ironman every year? Well, because I have, it forces me to do things that I probably wouldn't do otherwise. I've seen so many of my friends or, people I know go, just really go off the deep end. And, so when I go into these Ironman races, I think in my mind, I'm like, all right, I always look at, because I want to see those, 16, 17 hour weeks too. When I look back and reflect and I look in Garmin Connect, I'm like, oh, that was 17 hours. That's what I need. But I don't really have that in me. So I'm always kind of looking for, all right, what's not the shortcut, but what's the least I can do, I guess, to know that I can still be, competitive out there. And then as I was kind of talking about last week, I just always sort of, because endurance sports are really weird. You know, for somebody who didn't do it growing up, when you start to learn that running shouldn't feel as hard as you thought it did, or swimming, for example. I mean, swimming is a really great example, because when I first started swimming, I'm sure most of the people out there that started swimming as adults realize, you know, that first time you got to the pool, you couldn't swim 50 yards. And then it's about figuring out how to go and relax and swim in a way that you can, you know, keep it up for a long time. And that's really what, you know, Ironman becomes. And you figure these things out and that's what I kind of always do is be like, all right, well, because I mean, this year, honestly, you know, just for, maybe this will help some people out there. My longest ride will be probably 80 miles, and my longest run might be 2 hours, 11, 12 miles or something like that. And I'm going into Ironman with this idea, like, okay, I'm not even close to the distance on that. I'll probably swim it a couple times. But, yeah, so when I'm going, it's always sort of hanging out there, and I do that on purpose because it's something I don't necessarily want to do all the time, but when I do it, I'm better off for it. But I don't shell myself either. That's why I'm always trying to talk to my athletes. It's like, yeah, you know, I know historically there's this lore about doing multiple 6-hour rides or whatever it is, or multiple centuries and things like that, but, you know, I don't want you to get completely wore out, burned out, and hate the sport, you know? So if you can get 4 to 4.5 to maybe 5 or something instead of 6, and you can get off the bike and be like, all right, I can come back and fight tomorrow, rather than coming back and fighting 4 days later because you're absolutely shelled, you know, those kind of things. So I do agree, man. It's, you know, you think about what happened in the pandemic, and this could just be my impression, but it does seem to me that in general, with all the craziness going on and social media drives me crazy, I just have to step away from it because it's an onslaught, man, of this and that. And we're talking about, like, you know, the tendency for most people, I think, is to post either when they're really high or really low. And now suddenly you're chasing something, or you're kind of trying to, you know, support somebody, or they're dragging you into their world, whatever it is. I just feel like life has gotten generally a little bit more difficult, maybe because of all the distractions and things going on in the world. And I just sense just a little bit lower of an energy vibe. And when you talk about those Ironman races back in the day, when, you know, you and I started working together in 2013, like, there was genuine buzz around that whole day. And even in Louisville, when we go there was like a lot of hype, a lot of vibe around. There's a lot more people racing. Well, of course, in Wisconsin, they're going to have 2 races. So there'll be a lot of people around, which is good. And one of the main reasons I keep doing it is because, you know, I think out of most of the races, that one probably has good energy with crowd support and just the location of it downtown Madison. It just feels exciting, you know, to that level. But I agree. I think they probably should, you know, shrink down the number and just have more people there. You know, it's like my dad used to say when he used to be a minor league general manager, he always would try to make the good nights great instead of making a bunch of average nights a little bit better than average, because nobody remembers that shit. You know, it's sort of like if you go to an Ironman and there's only 600 people there, I mean, I would struggle with that, you know. I don't know why. That's just me, but
I mean, you just led into, which is kind of what we usually do. We're always on the same page. You just led into something very similar to what I was about to talk about. I was doing some calculations while you were chatting, and you talk about being even, right? And obviously, yes, life changes, right? We all go through. I mean, hell, you and I have gone through some major life changes, you know, since we've been best friends, and also just in the last year and a half, you know, major life, you know, changes and moving. And so, yeah, things always happen, right? But for the most part, athletes, we impose upon ourselves massive changes, right? And we talk about burnout all the time, and or over signing up for, you know, for signing up for way too many races or way too many fulls, or fulls back to back to back to back to back. And I probably shouldn't. I'm like, well, that's, you know, there's the stop. I mean, I tell an athlete the other day, a really, really great athlete, been to Kona, exceptional, high level. and we were in pretty good shape, rolling into Lake Placid, and already been on the podium at a 70.3 this year, and ended up having like a coli and just like just was drained, just totally just done. I had to drop out at I think mile 10 of Lake Placid. And then, of course, they've got Finland 70.3 coming up in the World Championships, and they sent me this, hey, what do you think about me doing Chattanooga in a few months or a few weeks? And I was like, why? What's the point?
Yeah.
Like, tell me, don't tell me you want to do an event. Tell me why you want to race. And, I don't know. I was like, no, I said, your body will do well to not have to worry about a full, and let's just get faster. I don't think that made her very happy, but and then the last week I got to say these words. This is the best and fastest shape you have been in the entire year. And you're like, I know. And that's the point, right? Is to know, it's not to just do it, but to do it with a purpose, right? And your purposes can be anything, right? It could be to race it or just to do it, right? To challenge yourself physically or to do the best you can for yourself as a person. And sometimes that might be just mismatching your way through training to get to the start line and do a full, to prove that you can do it. Mm-hmm. That is also fine. As long as you have that objective mentality, going into it. But going back to not getting too high and too low, and what you see so many times with athletes is I did a quick little, how much I love math and calculations. Well, I did a little calculation, and over a 3-year span, right? If you look at an athlete, in year one, they average 14 hours a week of training for the year. That's a lot of hours. Mm-hmm. Next year, a little bit of burnout. They only average 6. They probably did too much. Maybe raced 2 Ironman. And the next year, they get a little bit back. They average 8 hours a year. Okay, that's a grand total of 336 hours of training over those 3 years. Conversely, if you take an athlete who over a 3-year span just commits to only training 10 hours a week, 360 hours. So an entire day's worth of training, more than the person who went up, way up, down, and then start to work the way back up again. Not only do they get more hours in, but their trajectory is also going to be continuously going up, and they will be fitter because they won't have had that down period in year 2. And this is what you see all the time with athletes. They overcommit, and then that leads to not being able to commit. So then they're undercommitted in training, and it's a mental thing that leads to a physical problem. And what I mean by that is that your expectations or your obsessive nature in doing too much or always signing up for an Ironman leads you doing so much that eventually you just don't got it anymore. It's not, and yes, because your body probably run down, sure. But I think we would all agree as endurance athletes, the problem usually lies, right? The decision-making power relies from the chin up. Mm-hmm. Do I want to go work out today? Do I want to go to the pool? Do I want to do another long ride? Do I want to kind of do this? Like, it's really, 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 really hard. And we do it to ourselves. So like, again, if you want to talk about longevity and, there's tons of books and blogs and coaching methods that are all about, the time crunched athlete or the you get as fast as you can on as little hours as possible. It's not about as little hours as possible. It's about the most sustainable amount of hours for you that you want to do and that you can do and that you can repeatedly do. That's it. And then making the decision when you sign up for a race and you want to do a race. All right, look, what am I really in this for? I made it to finish? Check. I made it to PR? Yes. Okay, if I'm in it to PR, am I going to be able to set myself up for success to do that? Maybe. All right, well, why maybe? Well, I don't know that I can do the same amount of hours that I did before that got my last PR. Okay, well, let's, branch off into the other tree, and all right, well, if you can't do that many hours, where can we fill holes and compensate? Can we do that? Yes. All right, move on to the next one. Are we there to podium? All right, well, do I need to be realistic to this? Can I really podium these hours? Well, if I get to this, benchmark and this benchmark by this time, then I can. Well, I can't do that with the same amount of hours that I have available from the previous one. Yes. Okay, then move on to the next one. Many of us would be a lot better off and, again, happier, right? Because athletes are really only as happy as their training is making them or their race performances. An athlete could have the best 6 month training block and then go lay a total and be in the best shape of their life. And they can lay a total egg on race day. And then it's like the previous 6 months never happened. And they could lay an egg for a variety of reasons, right? Or they could really do the bare minimum of training, right? And then barely squeak by on race day with like a 30-second PR. And then it's like, killed it, baby. Killed it. And you're like, well, I mean, I'm happy for you, but yes, could we have done things better? Sure. And so again, when you look at the planning part, when you look at trying to make the best decision for you, I think a lot of us would be better off starting on the creative side to, how can we, because that's the fun part of it. And I think, again, like we become so rigid in everything that we do that and coach is the same, that you fail in the creativity department and you fail in getting that understanding across that it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to get done sometimes. And that's a giant win, right? So sometimes it's, what can I do in 12 months? Sometimes it's, what can I do in, 4 to 5 weeks? Should I expect a PR? No. I mean, I think I talked about this, 2 years ago when I did Ohio. You did the relay, the half marathon portion. And I look back and I think I barely squeaked under 440. It was my slowest 70.3 time in a few years. But I was originally kind of dejected by it. And then I went back and looked at my average training hours leading up to it. And it was like 8 hours with minimal swimming. And I was like, you know what? That's kind of a huge win. Like, yeah, was it earth shattering? Did I crush some goals? No. Did I really probably do as best I could given the hours that I committed to and got done in training? Yeah. So it's hard to find a loss in that, right? Yeah, you can woulda, shoulda, coulda about your training, but ultimately you didn't. But a lot of athletes go into a race hanging their hat on the woulda, shoulda, coulda and not the actual facts. And so there's also, again, nothing wrong going into a race thinking like, you know what? Hey, I'm not, I didn't do my best leading up to now, but I can do my best now. And then if I make it through race day, it's going to be a fucking miracle. Yeah. I'm a party hardy, right? It's going to be awesome. And that again, is a positive, right? But we always kind of go through this balance of, our expectations and what we thought about in real time, like leading up to the race and what actually happened versus what we planned on doing or we thought about doing when we signed up 10 months ago. And that's just not, that's just not the reality of the situation for people.
Right. Well, we've talked about this many times, but when I think of that, it's just one day, right? So that's kind of always my motivator. So I think about training and how I get through certain workouts and stuff like that. And I always think like, because it's real easy to, drag yourself into the bottom of the barrel in training and just be kind of exhausted. And one of my things I always like to say to athletes is, the goal today is to look forward to tomorrow. So what does that mean? And what does that mean in training? I think, for example, if I decided to go out for a 2 hour or 2:15 run this weekend, and I got to 2 hours and I knew I could make, another 1.5 miles, or let's say it's 2 miles or whatever I'm trying to do, I could do it. But like, I know how that will make me feel. I think that's the one thing about being in the sport a long time is you can, I'm really a proponent of understanding your body and how it feels and what you do, RPE and pacing and things like that. And so I know if I go another 2 miles right then, that's not a good idea, but I know I can do it. And I've talked about this in the pool. Sometimes I'll get out and I'll be like, well, I feel really good. I know I got another 1,000 in me or whatever, but I think that might, drop me off the end. And I usually, if I can use the infamous words of Frank Costanza, I stop short a lot. just because of that, because I know on race day, you know, like you're saying, I'm more in that mental space of, wow, well, let's just get there and see what happens rather than expecting the world. And then when you're done, it's kind of rewarding, you know, it's like, man, you just did that on this and whatever. And I just, I think about those things a lot. That extra 2 miles, would it just be, is it, you know, possible injury waiting to happen or whatever the deal may be. And if I can get done and not be completely floored and look forward to tomorrow, man, that's a real powerful way to approach training, you know, because it's, you know, that training plan's in there, but it's not in stone. And that's, I always tell people that, it's like, yeah, I can put this in there, but I don't know how you feel today necessarily. You make that decision when you get there. And on the counterpoint of that, sometimes I'll have a workout that it might be easy or whatever, but for whatever reason, I feel really strong. So that's when I push it a little bit. I take my moments. I mean, it's an ebb and flow throughout this whole training cycle. And, you know, like you said, that the best way to go about this is to be steady and consistent and have a solid, you know, average week thing going on and be, you know, just kind of be consistent all the time. But if you're not, so, you know, that's somebody like me that may do an Ironman and not do shit for another 2 months, you got to kind of keep that stuff in mind. I mean, you can't be somebody you're not. And that's back to what, you know, that I love that line, be the best of who you are, not the worst of somebody you're not or something. And that's just how you go about it. And, you know, find enjoyment in that. And there's no better feeling than getting done with a workout and going, man, I can't wait to go run tomorrow. But you're not running tomorrow because you got the energy, and, you know, appreciate that and savor that feeling, because that's what we want. You know, when you go to race day and you're going to get beat up and you're going to have to go deep mentally. And I really still think that it's mostly mental at that point, because we've proven that over and over. You know, if somebody has never run a marathon and their long run's been 13 miles after a 112-mile bike, and you can get it done. I mean, what is that? I mean, sure, that's physical, but I think, you know, 90% of that is mental on that second half.
And you said something there that brought up something I wanted to bring up earlier this week, and it's, I guess, slightly on topic, but someone said, or I saw a post from a friend of mine the other day talking about, you know, not being energized and dreading training. And I think the quote was from Arthur Leonard, famous, you know, run coach. And he said, you know, if you find yourself not liking training, go out and run as slow. And this could be for a bike as slow or a swim as slow, that, you know, the old people walking cruise right past you. Do that until you find the joy again.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, it sounds so ridiculous, but it is so true, right? That we get so lost in all these things that make us resistant to getting better, right? And listen, and I said this earlier, burnout, you know, fatigue, you know, demotivation and lacking commitment. We oftentimes do this to ourselves. We overcommit. We put way too many expectations. We expect way too much of the sport, you know, because listen, even when life throws obstacles at us, as long as we're being objective about things, we can usually weave it in, and let's be honest, we can usually make it work. But if you have to have, you know, people talk about having a great support system, right? Having a great, you know, a great coach or a great training group, or, you know, community, whatever it is, or your people under your house are all supportive. Like, people know all the time, but what we also don't think about is, like, you should have your own support system in place, right? Kind of your own, you know, it's time to pull the ripcord and take the parachute and get back down safely. You know, it's like, and that goes with, you know, how we lay out training, or giving ourselves opportunities to not do things, and what can we do instead? There's just the sport and then the vibe, and we get hated on this all the time, me specifically, has become so damn rigid about everything that it leaves so little room for fun and creativity and coloring outside the lines and being expressive and just figuring shit out. We give up when things don't go perfect. We think every workout has to be nailed. If we mess up the first 2 days of the week, what's the point in keep going? I'll start back on Monday. I thought I was going to have a great training year and this happened. So why even race? Like we've coloring outside the line. That's how all the greatest inventions in this world have ever happened. Not by putting yourself inside of a box, being fucking creative, making it work, figuring it out. Right. And it's a skill, right? It's a huge skill. I know it drives people up the wall, right? That are just very, 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 like plan it, type A and have everything planned out. And but what you also find with those people is when things go off script, they struggle. If the teleprompter dies, they're done, right? If their smart trainer, freezes up, the workout's over. If your goggles don't make it in your swim bag going to the pool, day's done, right? You forgot your headphones going to to get on the run today, over. The forecast says that 20% of rain. I'll move it to tomorrow. Guess what? Doesn't rain. Goggles come off early in the swim, race over. That's what we've become. We've become unadaptive, uncreative. We're creatures of habit, and that can be a great thing, but it can also be at your own detriment, right? Because all you see is things that don't fit in the circle, don't fit in the box. They ooze out. You color outside the lines. It's seen as imperfection, but guess what? Life is one giant imperfection. It happens to us. It's about how we choose to react, how we choose to respond, and then how much fun we choose to do it. How much fun we choose to have while we're doing it. Like that is what makes and drives people forward. Not feeling like they can't do certain things. I mean, I know for a fact this is one of the many reasons why you and I both don't work in corporate America. It's because we are always we're what about this, guys? I think we can do that. What about this? It's like be creative and be flexible and push the boundaries of what you think is possible, not what you think of a performance is possible, basically. But do I recommend doing 7 hours a week to do a full? No, but if you can do it, pat yourself on the fucking back. I mean, like you got it done. Should you expect to absolutely annihilate the race? No, but if you do, again, you're pushing boundaries, and that's why we do this sport. You didn't start this sport to be put in a box. You didn't start this sport to be stuck in the C cell on the spreadsheet. You didn't start this sport to have the reins put on you, to be rigid and to be told you can't, or it has to be perfectly done like this. You didn't do that. And there's a period of freedom-fying people that we come into our group when we hey, what exact pace do I need to run on today? And there is no exact pace. What exact watt? There is no exact watt. And you just feel things out. Understand how things go, because every day changes. Again, when you talk about characteristics of the most successful athletes that I work with, again, not just from a time standpoint, but from getting the most out of their ability and the time they have to do it, they epitomize flexibility, making it happen. 30 minutes versus 50. I feel like I can, I had this conversation with a somewhat newer athlete who's training for a marathon. He just got done doing Lake Placid. And they had a long run that they did. And they're just like, I had a 16-hour work day at the restaurant, and I had nothing in me today. And I said, listen, if you see your week, opening up, and you wake up and the weather looks good and you don't have to work, I'm not having to spend that many hours, then input long run there. Mm-hmm. And what happened? She did it on, I think Wednesday or Thursday. And guess what? Fucking nailed it. Mm-hmm. So what happened there, right? Was it placed perfectly on the right day by me? No. I mean, most coaches will tell you, the perfect placement rarely happens, or it has to be, where we place it in your life has to line up perfectly. 9% of the time, it's close enough to get the job done. But what happened is I gave her permission to be flexible and wake up and take ownership of it and make it happen. Not, oh, well, it's got to be green today, and coach said it's going to mess up the cycle of this week, and I'm not sure it's really going to affect my CTL and training peaks. And that's not live your life, do your best, get as fit as you possibly can. And that'll look different for everybody. Again, fitness looks different for everybody. And I just think, again, we all can be reminded going into next year, even finishing out this year, be creative and have fun with it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The last week, I am way undertrained when it comes to cycling and swimming and borderline running. After end of July, August, pretty much did nothing. And I'm like, well, I got kind of the bug, right? I got Wisconsin 70.3 that I signed up for last year. So I got a spot on the start list. And each day I'm like, you know what? I wonder if I could shove in 25 days of training to get through a 70.3. There's no way in hell I would even get close to PRing. Not even close. Arguably, I don't even have a shot to go under 5 hours. But the other part of me is like, you know what? It'll get me in shape. Get me back to going doing things that I love. I could get out there and race and have fun, then see if this little experiment works. But then I also balance or you could just get back to a regular training groove and set yourself up great for next year. So that's legit a conversation I'm having in my head every other day. But I'm uncommittal, by the way. So don't start blowing up my phone or sending me direct messages and whatever. I just wrote I don't have. Yeah, don't at me.
Big
don't try
announcement on here.
Don't even dare slide into my DMs. It's definitely not an announcement. Well, I will say this. I am 11% in for Wisconsin 70.3
out of
11%. 10. No, out of 100.
Oh, I thought you meant 11. I'm out of 10. So it's. But here's the thing, man. Is
I started dabbling. 25 days is what I gave myself to
just go out and cruise it, man.
Shape.
Just go out and cruise it. You'll have a lot more fun.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing is you can't put expectations on it, and that's why I always try to layer myself as sort of the average guy. It's a lot easier. It's like if something good happens, it's like whoa. But man, back to the and this is important. That guy that was saying that go slow. Just slower than people walking or whatever to find the joy in it again. That's why I think I really, every year, especially when I'm trying to get back in shape, and even now, I'll do run walk a lot. Sometimes I'll just, if it's a, an hour run, I'll make it 1:15 and do a run walk, then I've got some time on my feet. I go a little bit further, whatever, or maybe equivalent of if I just did run. Those are the kind of things, but most importantly, I really enjoy it. I kind of like a break here and there, and I tell people all the time, is like, when you're running and it starts hurting, just walk for 20 seconds and recalibrate the muscles and give them a little bit of a break. And then you kind of pick it back up and you have better form. And I think it makes sense. But yeah, so it's kind of figure out a way and get it done. I really think that that's a huge part of it. Oh, I got a story too that will drive type A people crazy. Yesterday, I didn't feel like doing shit all day, including organizing the basement. I've got boxes laying around still from the move and things that need to be moved around. I didn't feel like doing any of that or riding. And I didn't have a hard ride. It was just sort of a 3 20-minute intervals at sort of race effort kind of thing, and with 5-minute recovery between. And so I started and I got on, and on the recoveries, I got off my bike and I started organizing for 5 minutes, and I took my recovery in my bike shoes, moving boxes around. And at first I'm like, this is not kosher. This does not equate. But then I'm like, well, I just thought of it as I was just coasting, down a hill or something, and I didn't need to keep pedaling. But I by the end, I was like, oh, that wasn't a bad ride. And I got some shit done. And, I can imagine what a lot of people would think about that. But you just got to figure out, like you're saying, the creative part of it. Not that that was super creative, but I just didn't hold myself to some ridiculous standard of sitting on a stupid trainer for, an hour and a half. I spent 15 minutes moving boxes around in the middle of it. And I got them both done, and I felt pretty damn good about it, to be honest.
One of my favorite lines when I've said this at camps, all the time at camps, or I've said this even in training. What are you doing today? I think I'm going to go out for a ride. How long are you going? I don't know. How long are you running for today? I'm not sure. How long are you going to the pool today? I'll let you know when I'm done. Drives people bonkers. They're like, what? How can you not know? I'm like, well, what if I feel really good after 1200? And I want to be done. Let me get out. Because guess what? I loved it. Or what if I get in and I'm like, I'm feeling it today and I want to go for 3000? Which one is wrong? Neither. Right? Same thing with riding. I feel really, really good. Like that last day of camp, second last day of camp, we rode the trace. I felt incredible for whatever reason. Just one of those days where you just feel awesome for no apparent reason when you don't have the fitness, but it somehow just like appears. And if I'd have told myself I wasn't riding or I was only doing an hour, I would never have seen it. I never had that kind of fun and never would have done it. Well, my schedule today says 1 hour in zone 2. Are you kidding me, people? Have fun with it. Like, explore things, have fun. Like, and as coaches, you have to, the more you restrict, obviously you should keep them from making like really stupid decisions. But outside of that, if you're a coach and you find yourself restricting and getting onto your athletes for running a little bit long or swimming extra or biking, on an exploring a route, like, get a grip. Get a grip. Like, work around the flexibility and their flexibility and adapt. A lot of times it just shows fear from a coach's standpoint. Like, you don't know how to adapt to this. It's like, it's like being a teacher and only knowing how to teach and educate one specific learning style. You're going to have 1 to 2 really, really good students that excel, and the other ones are going to struggle. It's just like coaching. You got to be able to kind of work and massage and make ends meet where they need to be met. And that's just part of coaching. And so whether you're an athlete with a coach or you're a coach yourself, or you're at work on a training plan, going with your gut, not your ego or your insecurities, but your gut. And what feels good, right? Where your heart is, where your mind is, what you need. That's what keeps you in the sport. That's what keeps you doing things for a long time. The longer you're in it, the better you get. Well, most of the time, unless you crash out and burn and don't do shit for 2 years. But other than that, most of us get better along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So go do that this weekend. Just go do whatever you want.
That's what I'm gonna do, man. My workouts a lot of times start that way. I don't know. And I sort of regroup several times throughout the workouts. It's like, if I get in the water, sometimes it's very hard to get in the water. And if I get in the lake and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go swim this normal route. Then I'm like, no, I feel like I got another 1,000 in me or whatever. And I just go, man. And a lot of times I'll see an athlete will pop up. It'll say 5,500 yards when it was supposed to be a 3,000 or something. And I just love it. It's like something happened there and they found a groove and they just went for it. I'm like, all day. Go get it.
All day. We hope you guys go get it all day. It is closing out August, closing out some training blocks, or even starting some new ones for most of you. So get out there, have fun with yourself, enjoy all the things that you're doing. Do something to put your smile on a face, or put a smile on your face, or someone else's face too. Have a good weekend, race hard, be smart, and train with a smile on your face and have some fun this weekend. Do it for all of us. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com, and there's a one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need or want info on our coaching, you can click on the coach tab and find the coach that's right for you. If you're looking for camps this year, you can also click on that tab. As always, Mike is available, crushingiron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me, c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. Have a great day, man.
You too, man. See ya.
See ya.